Good morning, happy Monday to you. We are kicking off the week with the right energy, the right insight, deep at that, and the right amount of coffee. My name is Julie Nantabamusisi, and so good to be here this fresh new week. Welcoming back all the Catholics from good nourishment over the week, spiritual nourishment, as Pope Leo XIV gave his first Sunday address, and in it he appealed for no more war. Now with me in studio, as always, is my usual partner in crime, Robert Chirabo Nyonyintano. Good morning, Robert.
A lovely morning to you, Julie, and of course our viewer. Thank you very much for choosing to start your week with us here on Good Morning Uganda. Because indeed mine was fine.
Surely.
I went to church, Life Church Namasuva. My pastor Richard was not there, but at least I saw Pastor Dora.
Oh,
and of course we had a very fruitful deliberation from one of the visiting pastors.
Nice. My weekend too was nice. If you talk about church, I attended Heaven's Gates and Hell's Flames.
Oh yes, I saw a lot of line up there.
Yes.
I was asking myself, man, as if I love the spirit that people are embracing godly events as they embrace worldly events. You know, when there's a concert, people line up, you see queues.
Yes.
Now, what I saw at, you call it KPC?
It's now Watoto.
Watoto.
Yes.
That queue asked people, by the way, what is happening here?
It's like there was a population census of some sort.
Yes, a lot of people turned up.
Yes, indeed. But what transpired for you over the weekend in regards to current affairs?
Well, first, the NRM primaries at lower levels is something up to now, I'm still trying to connect some dots. They were meant to have happened Tuesday last week. By and large, you would say elections were held, but in a number of places, they never happened due to chaos and in some areas, violence. I was watching clips in Remiyaga where people shed blood, real beating, almost killing each other.
All right.
Now, this is not member of parliament, this is not district council, this is not, but I asked God, why? Now, yesterday, that is here in Kampala, Wakiso, to be more specific, that is Chireka D in Kira municipality. First, the turn up, you'd think they're electing a president. People turned up in huge numbers. Second, the security, about 3 patrols, heavy deployment. But this was LC1, flag bearer for NRM. Now, the tension that was there, and finally, much as the winner was decided, the one who was defeated, after noticing that maybe he's going to lose, even went off the line, went away. But one thing, fellow Ugandans, I learned from these elections, not to say that even in my own village, where I'm one even of the leaders, we had to postpone them. The violence was beyond what we could handle. The zeal for people to take that position, I don't know what is in there. Personally, Judy, I'm not understanding.
Well, when you say that, I'm reminded of the older folks of the NRM party, people who have supported the NRM, who happen to be our parents' generations. When you interact with most of them, given the current situation of how something as simple as primary elections, what takes place, but even the internal politics of the NRM within, most of them right now have a feeling of being let down. Most of them do not feel appreciated for being NRM diehards, for pouring their hearts out for the NRM party. And right now, most of them, if you have conversations with them, they'll tell you things like, I'm not so looking forward to voting in the general election. I really have given my all, and I haven't gained much in giving my all. If anything, a lot has been taken away from me. This is what most of them express.
Because for me, the confusion here is, if you're simply coming to be an NRM flag bearer in the LC1 elections, because it doesn't mean that the flag bearer must be the chairman.
Right. You
can double as both, but still you can have a chairperson and then a flag bearer. Now, what is so much in that office that Judy will make me pick a rock and hit you on the head and you bleed? What is there that I'm going to benefit? That is the question. Two, and you fellow Ugandans, let's be very serious, because I saw this as a problem now. A person comes because these elections were held in public places.
Right.
Most of where we usually elect the national election that is organized by Justice Simon Byabakama. Now, being in the NRM, being in the national register, is not a must that you're in the NRM register. And also being in the NRM register is not a must that you're in the national voters register. Second, you must know where you're supposed to vote from. Because a person would come and say, Bulijjo nondera one. You've come for, how come I'm not in the register?
That has been quite a common
But you are not registered in the NRM Yellow Book. Because these are two independent things. Now that was causing violence. You come with your national ID, I've always been voting here, how come you're telling me I'm not in the register? Now this is what is going to happen. A person who voted, who was in the NRM register, will want to vote because he voted from there. Electoral Commission has a roadmap. If they display, go and find out. Also, when time comes for you to get your voter slip and know which polling station you're going to vote from. We don't want this confusion to continue to roll over in the main election. Last time I voted from here, so I've come to vote. Please, you must know, because polling stations are changing. Some are merged, some are split due to the population. So those are points we should note and what we should pick from the NRM lower level elections.
Right, thank you, Robert, for that insight. But on a lighter note, let's wish two people a happy birthday. The first one comes from a fan, someone who watches Good Morning Uganda on a daily and participates a lot on the show, and that is Cricket Derek Gagamel, who wishes Yuda Thaddeus more years of achieving and excelling as part of Friends of Heaven Youth Choir Family Masaja Parish. We equally celebrate together with you for the new age. But the other person that we should remember for this particular day is Godwin, who happens to be part of the crew of Good Morning Uganda. He celebrated his birthday yesterday, so happy birthday to you, Godwin. Once again, Good Morning Uganda. Thank you so much for choosing UBC TV. Robert, let's have a look at what's on the local scene.
We begin with President Yoweri Museveni, who met with a prominent investor from Qatar, that is Mr. Khalid bin Mohammed Al Yahtat, at State Lodge, Nakasero. Mr. Khalid, a former deputy prime minister of Qatar, the meeting centered on deepening bilateral investment cooperation, focusing on petroleum supply infrastructure, mining and agriculture. President Museveni emphasized Uganda's readiness to strengthen ties with Qatar investors to modernize and expand the critical sectors for national development. He presented proposals aimed at value addition in Uganda's agriculture sector in coffee and fruit processing. He also proposed collaboration in the mining sector. Mr. Museveni extended an invitation for partnership in the manufacturing of electronic vehicle batteries, positioning Uganda as a key player in the global green energy transition. Mr. Khalid expressed interest in the proposed areas and affirmed Qatar's commitment to exploring mutual beneficial ventures with Uganda. Members of Parliament from 29 African countries concluded a three-day engagement which aimed at reflecting on emerging global challenges affecting the African family, independence and value by coming with resolutions to addressing existing challenges. The members of Parliament commented on lack of common language used by African countries as a medium of communication. The members of Parliament resolved to reduce investment on donor-funded and have alternative sources of funding. They discussed how best African countries can make reforms in the education system. During the engagement, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Tayewa, called for a multi-stakeholders approach from the African countries towards safeguarding Africa's natural resources from being exploited by Western countries, adding that African countries should foster regional trade to boost trading among African countries with ease to free movement of people. He implored the MPs to prioritize agriculture among member states as another form of income-generating venues, which is contributing heavily to their country's GDP. Sarah Opendi, the chairperson Africa Interparliamentary Conference, presented a zero draft of the Africa Charter that shows commitment to preserve African values, family and independence. They will approve a draft charter which will be acknowledged and adopted for circulation in the various parliaments, discussed and have the resolutions in the next meeting. Still on the local scene, the Apostolic Nuncio, Archbishop Augustine Kasuja, has urged couples to raise children who respect the value of holy matrimony. He was representing the Archbishop of Kampala, Paul Semogwere, at a couples who wedded from Lubaga Cathedral celebrating mothers on Mother's Day. Archbishop Augustine Kasuja urged couples to be good shepherds in raising responsible children who respect value of religion. Among the activities was praying for the new Pope, sharing of Eucharist, renewing holy matrimony vows. The wife to the National Unity Platform President Babi Kyagulanyi Ssentamu encouraged families to raise children by example and respect for all people. The Tuesday Class Alumni Association that follows up on the newly wedded couples encouraged youth not to fear holy matrimony. And finally, on the local scene, the Prime Minister Robert Nabanja has embarked on the construction of Nyabirungi Banayawa Bridge on River Mpongo in Kisita Town Council, Kakumiro District. The initiative will ease business between three districts of Kakumiro, Changwanzi and Hoima following the construction of Nyabirungi Banamia Bridge on River Mpongo in Kisita Town Council, Kakumiro District. Residents from the three districts have been finding it hard to cross to either side of Changwanzi, Kakumiro and Hoima. Now, that brings us to the end of our local stories. Don't fear holy matrimony.
Yes, indeed. I wanted to ask you more about your reaction to not fearing holy matrimony. Aren't you married?
That commitment, all I have I give to you. Life and death.
Oh well, marriage is about purpose and not an achievement. In my perspective, it's purpose. As long as you're ready to serve the Lord, then go for it. If you're not yet ready, do not bother.
Tying yourself on someone permanently.
Anyways, let's have a look at what is on the local scene. And we're starting off with the Hamas, who are ready to release a U.S.-Israeli hostage. Hamas says it will release Israeli-American hostage Edan Alexander, who is believed to be the last living captive with U.S. nationality in Gaza, as a part of efforts to reach a ceasefire agreement. The decision comes ahead of President Donald Trump's visit to the Middle East on Tuesday. Hamas said it was also intended to facilitate a deal for the entry of humanitarian aid. Gaza has been under an Israeli blockade for 70 days, and earlier a senior Hamas official told the BBC that the Palestinian armed group was holding direct negotiations with a U.S. administration official in Qatar. The Israeli Prime Minister's office said it had been informed by the U.S. of the Hamas intention to release Alexander. A senior Palestinian official familiar with the negotiations told the BBC that Hamas's announcement was intended as a goodwill gesture before Trump's arrival. He said another meeting between Hamas and the mediators was scheduled for early Monday morning to finalize the process of Edan's release, which would require a temporary halt to Israeli military activity and a suspension of aerial operations during the handover. President Trump confirmed Alexander's release in a post on Truth Social, calling it monumental news and a step taken in good faith. Now, staying with matters war, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he is ready to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin. personally in Istanbul on Thursday for talks over ending the war. His post on X came shortly after Donald Trump demanded Ukraine agree to Putin's offer of direct talks between the two countries in Turkey. And he is quoted saying, "That is Zelensky, there is no point in prolonging the killings, and I'll be waiting for Putin in Turkey on Thursday." He had earlier said his country was open to talks with Russia, but only after a ceasefire was in place. Western powers called for a 30-day pause in fighting to begin on Monday after European leaders spearheading the so-called coalition of the willing met in Kyiv on Saturday. Putin's offer of direct talks followed that intervention. On Sunday, Trump then posted on social media that Ukraine should agree to this immediately, and it would provide clarity on whether there was a way to end the war. In his post on X, Zelensky said he hoped Russia would agree to the ceasefire before the talks. And in a late-night address on Saturday, Putin invited Ukraine to take part in serious negotiations over the war, which began with Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Now, coming back to Africa, in East Africa particularly, heavy overnight floods have washed away several villages in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, killing more than 100 people, according to local officials, in a nation suffering war and mass displacement. Very sad indeed. Now, the floods were triggered by torrential rains and surged through the Kasaba village in South Kivu province during the night of Thursday into Friday. Regional official Bernard Akili told news agency AFP on Saturday. Torrential rains caused the Kasaba River to burst its banks overnight, with the rushing waters carrying everything in their path, large stones, large trees, and mud, before raising the houses on the edge of the lake, he said. The victims who died are mainly children and elderly, he said, adding that 28 people were injured and some 150 homes were destroyed. Sami Kalonji, the regional administrator, said the torrent killed at least 104 people and caused enormous material damage. And South Kivu's provincial health minister, Theophile Walulika Muzaliwa, told the Associated Press news agency that the rescue operations were hampered by a lack of services and a shutdown of telephone lines due to the flooding. Well, that's it from the foreign affairs. We continue to stand with Congo in prayer. In all honesty, yes. Let's pray for Congo.
When they sneeze, we do the coughing. Yes. And
yes,
remember, there's so much business.
Yes, yes.
Between Congo and Uganda.
And Uganda, yes.
So we need that country very peaceful so that we can sell what we have.
And very stable at that.
And now let's look at what is in the print media this morning, and allow me begin with the New Vision, where there is a big headline there: gunmen raid Njeru stock farm again. Now, farm manager Dr. Wabule ask government for protection. Ooh. And here we have experts support 5 trillion UDC capitalization. Well, there's money for us if it's given there, you borrow. And over 80 jobs now in the New Vision this morning, over 80 jobs. You can look through and see. And Catholics mourn Magembe, the man who had turned Bukarango into a healing center. Signor Magembe there. And grandmother's journey to save a granddaughter's heart. There is the grandmother and the daughter. And Museveni rallies Africans on family values. Allow me quickly peruse through the Daily Monitor this morning. And a big headline there: oil versus coffee. Now, which one gives the country more? The Daily Monitor has some statistics for you. How politics hit Bobi Wine's music career. Now that's talking about the new Principal Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. Once a good musician, now a politician. And we move to Monsignor Magembe, man who turned Bukarango into a sanctuary of healing. Well, gone there. Still, and the lizard with these. Now, talking about oil, says, and someone is going to come up and thank the NRM government. Lizard. Now, let's move quickly to the Daily Nation, where Ruto stumbles from one crisis to another. That is the Kenyan president. Oil dealers inflate cooking gas prices by 3 times. Joho dragged into Turkana gold mines. There's a scandal there. And public schools demand fat bribes for new learners. And now I fly to Tanzania. The Citizen. Africa's economic future in focus as CEOs convene. And we have leaders Ulysses Musuya as pillar of integrity, vision, and unity. Why global venture capital is bypassing Tanzanian startups. And clean energy takes center stage at Tuja Marathon. Well, these and more you can get when you buy yourself a copy.
Right. Now, looking at the Gazette as of 9th May 2025, the contents in there: the Commission for Oaths Advocates Act notice, the Marriage Act notices, the Education Pre-Primary, Primary and Post-Primary Act notice, the Advocates Act notices, the Companies Act notices, the Insolvency Act notices, the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Regulations notices, the Uganda Tourism Board notice, the Biofuels Act notice, the Police Control of Private Security Organs Regulations notices, the Veterinary Surgeons Act notice, the Trademarks Act registration of applications. And there is a statutory instruments number 47, the Traffic and Road Safety, Speed of Motor Vehicles, Temporary Maximum Speed Limit, number 3, order number 3, 2025, and statutory instrument number 48, the roads closure of Nyakahita, Rempongo Road, and Akageti Lake Mburo Road, and that is notice number 2, 2025. And the Commissioners for Oaths Advocates Act Commission, to all whom it may concern, this presents may come greetings. Be it known that as of the 15th day of April 2025, Mwesigwa Herbert, an advocate of the High Court, has been appointed to be a commissioner for oaths under the above-mentioned Act for so long as he continues to practice as such advocate and commission is not revoked. This is by Alphonse Chigamoy Awinyi Dolo, that's Chief Justice, as of the 15th day of April 2025. And still another notice to all whom it may concern, greetings come. Be it known that on the 14th day of July 2015, Kasa Emmanuel, an advocate of the High Court, has been appointed to be a commissioner for oaths under the above-mentioned Act for so long as he continues to practice such advocate and the commission is not revoked. This is confirmed by Sarah Langa, Chief Registrar, as of the 29th day of July 2021. And in the Marriage Act there, confirming a place for the celebration of marriage, the church is Buwenge Miracle Center International, and the denomination is Pentecostal. The village is Church Zone, Parish Kasalima Ward, Sub-County Buwenge Town Council, County Kagoma, and the district is Jinja District. This is under the hand of Honorable Kafuzi J. Jackson Karugaba, Deputy Attorney General, as of the 15th day of November 2022. And that's pretty much it from the press, but let's take a short break with the rendition of the song Jara by Limo Blaze, Lecrae, and Happy. Good morning, Uganda.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda. Limo Blaze.
Robin Banja has embarked on the construction of Nyabirungi Banayawa Bridge on River Mpongo in Kisita Town Council, Kakumiro District. The initiative will ease business between 3 districts of Kakumiro, Changwanzi, and Hoima, following the construction of Nyabirungi Banamia Bridge on River Mpongo in Kisita Town Council Kakumiro District. Residents from the 3 districts have been finding it hard to cross to either side of Chankwanzi, Kakumiro and Hoima. Now, that brings us to the end of our local stories. Don't fear Holy Matrimony.
Yes, indeed. I wanted to ask you more about your reaction to not
fear.
fearing Holy Matrimony. Aren't you married?
That commitment, all I have I give to you. Life
Oh, well.
and death.
Oh, well, marriage is about purpose and not an achievement, in my perspective. It's purpose. As long as you're ready to serve the Lord, then go for it. If you're not yet ready, do not bother.
Tying yourself on someone permanently.
Anyways, let's have a look at what is on the local scene. And we're starting off with the Hamas, who are ready to release a U.S.-Israeli hostage. Hamas says it will release Israeli-American hostage Edan Alexander, who is believed to be the last living captive with U.S. nationality in Gaza, as a part of efforts to reach a ceasefire agreement. The decision comes ahead of President Donald Trump's visit to the Middle East on Tuesday. Hamas said it was also intended to facilitate a deal for the entry of humanitarian aid. Gaza has been under an Israeli blockade for 70 days, and earlier a senior Hamas official told the BBC that the Palestinian armed group was holding direct negotiations with a U.S. administration official in Qatar. The Israeli Prime Minister's office said it had been informed by the U.S. of the Hamas intention to release Alexander. A senior Palestinian official familiar with the negotiations told the BBC that Hamas's announcement was intended as a goodwill gesture before Trump's arrival. He said another meeting between Hamas and the mediators was scheduled for early Monday morning to finalize the process of Edan's release, which would require a temporary halt to Israeli military activity and a suspension of aerial operations during the handover. President Trump confirmed Alexander's release in a post on Truth Social, calling it monumental news and a step taken in good faith. Now, staying with matters war, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he is ready to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin personally in Istanbul on Thursday for talks over ending the war. His post on X came shortly after Donald Trump demanded Ukraine agree to Putin's offer of direct talks between the two countries in Turkey. And he is quoted saying, that is Zelensky, "There is no point in prolonging the killings, and I'll be waiting for Putin in Turkey on Thursday." He had earlier said his country was open to talks with Russia, but only after a ceasefire was in place. Western powers called for a 30-day pause in fighting to begin on Monday after European leaders spearheading the so-called coalition of the willing met in Kyiv on Saturday. Putin's offer of direct talks followed that intervention. On Sunday, Trump then posted on social media that Ukraine should agree to this immediately, and it would provide clarity on whether there was a way to end the war. In his post on X, Zelensky said he hoped Russia would agree to the ceasefire before the talks. And in a late-night address on Saturday, Putin invited Ukraine to take part in serious negotiations over the war, which began with Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Now, coming back to Africa, in East Africa particularly, heavy overnight floods have washed away several villages in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, killing more than 100 people, according to local officials, in a nation suffering war and mass displacement. Very sad indeed. Now, the floods were triggered by torrential rains and surged through the Kasaba village in South Kivu province during the night of Thursday into Friday. The regional official Bernard Akili told news agency AFP on Saturday. Torrential rains caused the Kasaba River to burst its banks overnight, with the rushing waters carrying everything in their path, large stones, large trees, and mud, before raising the houses on the edge of the lake, he said. The victims who died are mainly children and elderly, he said, adding that 28 people were injured and some 150 homes were destroyed. Sami Kalonji, the regional administrator, said the torrent killed at least 104 people and caused enormous material damage. And South Kivu's provincial health minister, Theophile Walulika Muzaliwa, told the Associated Press News Agency that the rescue operations were hampered by a lack of services and a shutdown of telephone lines due to the flooding. Well, that's it from the foreign affairs. We continue to stand with Congo in prayer. In all honesty, yes. Let's pray for Congo.
When they sneeze, we do the coughing. Yes. And
yes,
remember, there's so much business.
Yes, yes.
Between Congo and Uganda.
And Uganda, yes.
So we need that country very peaceful so that we can sell what we have.
And very stable at that.
And now let's look at what is in the print media this morning, and allow me begin with the New Vision, where there is a big headline there: gunmen raid Njeru stock farm again. Now farm manager Dr. Wabule asked government for protection. Ooh. And here we have experts support 5 trillion UDC capitalization. Well, there's money for us if it's given there, you borrow. And over 80 jobs now in the New Vision this morning, over 80 jobs. You can look through and see. And Catholics mourn Magembe, the man who had turned Bukarango into a healing center. Signor Magembe there.
Joko, I thought I was one of your friends.
You are!
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that.
Okay.
The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Thank you so much for sticking with UBC. And if you've just joined in, you're welcome. Here to inspire you. My name is Julie Nantava-Musisi, and I am with Robert Chirabo Nyonyitono. And together we bring you Good Morning Uganda, making sure that you start your morning with inspiration and a lot to learn, as well as unlearn and relearn. Now, Uganda's water bodies are a source of livelihood to many, especially for those who stay near them. But unfortunately, these same water bodies are highly polluted by different factors, different individuals, and different factors that come into play. For example, there is irresponsible waste disposal to Lake Victoria, and as well as direct waste disposal of chemicals from factories that are near Lake Victoria. And these are not the only ones. There's a lot. There's plastic waste disposal that's just thrown anyhow into Lake Victoria. There is human waste that is disposed of into Lake Victoria because houses or shelters near Lake Victoria are said to not own toilets. Well, a lot is going on in polluting Uganda's water bodies. Yet they're the same water bodies from which we get the water that we use in our households, the same water bodies that have the fish that we get to eat and nourish our lives. So today we are looking into the whole issue of polluting water bodies. How bad is it? What must we do? Now, you can be on the conversation, 0709-602-592. Feel free to send in your WhatsApp message, your opinion, your question, so that we all learn together as well as unlearn. Robert, good morning.
Good morning once again.
So share that statistic and paint the picture, the reality of how bad it is with polluting Ugandan water bodies.
First, we must know that we're having a very, very big problem as a country. Now, Uganda is facing a growing, that is a water pollution crisis. And when I look at, I'm reading a report that was done by the National Environment Management Authority with partnerships from global networks regarding our waters. Now, they say the crisis is due to toxic runoffs from industries, sewerage, chemicals which pose a threat. Now, NEMA, that is the National Management Authority, says water pollution is the second biggest environment threat. That is after deforestation. Now, if you're talking about destroying our environment, the water pollution is the next, just after deforestation. But I want to look at the statistics. Now, in 2015, the Uganda Water Ministry reported that 513 industries around Lake Victoria had discharged industrial waste into the lake, affecting the quality of the primary water source for residents. But the report goes ahead, that is the baseline study, shows that in 2021, it revealed that approximately 9,948 tons of plastic waste goes uncontrolled each year, with 44% of it ending up on land and 11% in water, 6% in sewer, and 39% being burnt. Now, this is giving you a picture that if you're to look at our lakes, they are highly polluted. And this is not a very good thing, because at the end of the day, these are responsible for so much that we consume, our animals consume, the aquatic life consumes. And recently, if you remember, National Water and Sewerage Corporation came up and said they have almost doubled the amount of chemical they need to purify, to make sure that the water collected from Lake Victoria that comes through your tap is worthy you to take. So that is how big the problem is for our country.
Very dire indeed. Very dire. If you think, you know, when these reports are shared on pollution, especially with water bodies, if you stay away from water bodies, or if you stay far from water bodies, you might think it's not relatable, right? You might think it's far from you. Yet in actual sense, that tap in your home, in your sink, is releasing water that you consume, that you use to bathe, that you use to cook your food. So that means this issue actually matters more than you think it does. But let's look at the causes
now,
of this dire pollution.
Now, when we look at the causes, like I said earlier, over 513 factories around Lake Victoria, these were releasing their industrial waste straight into the lake, untreated and catered for. It just goes into the lake. Now, when we talk about industrial waste, it has a lot of substances in it, and above many would be chemicals. Now we have which we call toxic runoff from the industries. Now I also have a problem of sewage.
Right.
The way people manage this. Many release in water bodies. And to be very honest and clear, if you ever go to any landing site, try to investigate where their toilets are.
One would wonder why, though.
It is very hard.
Why is it hard to have, however small, to have a pit latrine?
These islands, these landing sites, I've never had a time to, I've never spent there some
because
time.
It
But
looks,
one thing I've noticed is they either use Vuvera and throw in the water.
and you know that the thing is, the issue looks simple. It's like asking someone, why don't you bathe?
Yes.
Or why don't you brush your teeth? So one would wonder, why do most landing sites lack toilets?
Now, away from the landing sites, when you go to our ghetto communities,
Yeah.
and bad thing is most of these are even in areas where the water levels, the water table is so near. These people also use a method of throwing into any water body there. That also contaminates sewer. But also don't forget that you also have people who wait for the rains and they will put in any channel. And remember, there is interleakage. That what you drop here will eventually land somewhere in a water body, as long as it is a water body. But also another contamination that we see here is homes. Now, of late, there is something that Ugandans are doing, and I know our viewer Many of you are not aware of this. Have you heard of people who dig, they call them wells in their homes? So that you have your own water, then you have a pump and you have your own water. Because there's pressure there, it can't go now. This of late research has shown that they have also aided so much water contamination, more so in areas where the water table is near, and a danger to people. That is why, though our government sometimes is very weak when it comes to enforcement, when you're going to have that well at your place, you must seek permission. If you're in Kampala, from Kampala Water, then the Ministry of Water and Environment will come and give you a go-ahead. Now, this is what happens, Judy. You have a pit latrine here or a septic tank in your fence. Yes?
Right.
Now, your neighbor just after the fence digs that well. They call them wells. They have common of late. Many people are having them. Now, this is what happens. Your septic tank carries waste from your home. Now, the soil science tells us that this waste you're taking has the ability to move underground and connect to this well. But also remember, these wells you're digging, you must be aware of what the water table is. So, because water has some science underground that it will connect. However, most Ugandans are taking contaminated water because the water you're taking, it comes out clean, yet it has fecal material from your neighbor's septic tank. You get it? Many people, this is just a danger I wanted. Many people, this water you're taking, your neighbor has a pit latrine here. Just you adjacent, not even 100 meters, because at least it should be in a distance of 100 meters.
Actually, allow me to chip in there with a bit of a statistic. It shows that 32%, away from even the wells, but on a general whole of contaminating water bodies, it shows that 32% of rural water sources of rural areas have lead, the chemical lead, the metal lead in them, and that 22% of water bodies in urban areas have lead in them. That is the water you and I consume.
So this is a very big problem. The lakes are being contaminated by industries at large. Like I told you here, that 513 industries around Lake Victoria had discharged industrial waste into the lake, affecting the quality of the primary source of water for residents of Kampala, Uganda's capital and the largest city. Now, 513 industries.
That's a lot.
Into Lake Victoria.
Yes.
What does that mean? Now, coupled by the fishermen. Are there fisherwomen? Okay, let's go the fishing community.
Yes.
Who don't have toilets. Who use our water bodies. Now, also brought in by these people who also don't have pit latrines in homes, who simply find a disposal method of throw.
You know, we talk about disposing, waste management, and I know fishing communities who stay in the area also use these water bodies as showers, as bathrooms. I'm not so sure how dire that is, but every time I think about the body, and when you bathe, all that comes off of your body, the imagination of it going into the water it's unbecoming, quite unbecoming.
And when you go to some areas, the water has even changed color.
Yes.
You can see it. It's dark green.
Dirty green.
When you go to National Water and Sewage Treatment Plant, and we want to commend government and National Water and Sewage Corporation, because what they are transforming usable for us is really very deadly, to ensure that that water is safe and clean for you to take, as it comes from their this part of channels for you to consume this water. They're injecting a lot of money because we've polluted our water, but they have to make it safe for you and me to take that water.
In fact, I watched a report of a representative from NEMA who said that that the fish might not yet be affected. It might still be safe to a certain degree, but the more we pollute these water bodies, the more expensive it is to actually treat the water every now and again. And the more expensive it is, that means as the end consumers, we're the ones who suffer the burden from National Water and Sewage Corporation.
Very hard thing there for us. But the challenge is there's a term called complacency. There are many things that are happening in our country, and we've become complacent. You know, we've made them normal.
Right.
And we are okay with them. Fishermen don't have toilets. That is okay. The fishing community is like that. We have communities that don't have
What
toilets.
are the authorities doing? I think this issue of not having a toilet is really bothering me, because why not? What are the authorities doing? I remember back in the day, it was a must by law by the authorities to own a toilet in your home. So what happens at landing sites? Don't authorities operate there?
One of the things that has done us bad, though good, is elective democracy. But okay, democracy. That today, leaders and men of sober heads and women become next to useless because of the vote. That today, our leaders, let's not rely on politically elected leaders. I want to be very honest to my nation and my fellow countrymen. People that come in office, when they have been elected, are about to vehicle, if we are looking at enforcing the law. Because they know the good thing and they know the right thing, but because of commercialization and the benefits that come with elective offices, they're not willing to tell us the truth or to enforce the law because it has an impact on them. No one will go to parliament, no one will go to any elective office, and they want to serve and leave, unless they are sure that they are not going to return. But if they are sure they are going to return and win, or they have ways of getting back in office, they can never step down. What does that mean? That you will not imprison people, you will not pass these bylaws. Because, you know, when you pass these bylaws, that one arrested us for lack of toilets, you're losing a vote.
Well, one thing I know for sure from the faith that I take is that you'll still be held accountable one time. You'll still be held accountable for the office that you hold as one in the hands of the authority. But 0709602592 is the WhatsApp number to which you can engage in on this conversation that we are having as we look at the dire pollution of Uganda's water bodies. We've looked at the causes, we've looked at the statistics, and allow me read just one comment from you. And this is Good Morning Uganda. Today's topic is really one that I take keen interest to. The rate at which our water is losing its initial purpose, which is to save life, is really, really alarming. It starts with me and you to watch our daily habits, to ensure that we are compliant with natural common sense. This is Tukundane Brian from Kampala. Thank you so much, Tukundane. And on that note, Robert, let's take a look at the dangers in depth. What are the dangers of contaminated water bodies?
Well, let's begin with statistics that indicate 70% of all diseases, such as cholera. I know now Ugandans, this is not a new thing when you talk about cholera. It's been there. Diarrhea. Still, these are diseases we can't explain signs and symptoms because many have gone through them. Dysentery. Hepatitis A. Typhoid and polio that are treated in Uganda are directly caused by lack of clean water or poor sanitation and hygiene practices. Now, according to the Biomed Control, diarrhea accounts for 22% of all fatalities among Ugandan children under the age of 5. Now just think about that. 70% of diseases we take to our hospitals are a result of contaminated water. When you talk about polio, the bacteria there.
Right.
When you talk about cholera, remember there was a time in Kampala where we had a burst out of cholera. And the mayor by then, I think it was Christopher Ike, so even he lost a vote because they said, yeah, cholera. Then dysentery, hepatitis A. Now these are diseases we are talking about. That actually, most of the monies that we spend on treating these diseases are preventable diseases. But remember, When you go to our children, 22% of the children that under the age of 5 that report in very severe conditions in our hospitals are suffering from these diseases that are a result of contaminating our water. But also for the aquatic life. The only challenge the aquatic life can do is they migrate when situations become so complicated for them. That's why you hear silverfish, we used to get it, it's no longer there. Now punch, this, that, because for them they have the capacity to migrate and look for cleaner waters, unless their breeding area is particularly there. But also, this has an impact on what we grow. If you're using the water for irrigation, and it has chemicals in it, contaminated chemicals. I remember one time around Entebbe, we had a flower factory, but the enforcement came in and things were corrected. But farmers there, even what they were growing, that were using that water, because it had chemicals, were being affected. Their crops were being affected. And we are talking of a country where we're looking at one time having irrigation schemes and using effective irrigation, moving away from rainfall-fed agriculture. So it has the cost of treating water. Julie, National Water and Storage Corporation spends, but even you, if you're to use it within your home, because some people are near these water bodies.
Right.
And maybe you're like, why should I continue paying for water, yet I can have a home dug well, then make connections, and water runs smoothly. It's a one-off. Maybe.
But also even looking at the long-term effects, I mean, all these cancers that are common right now, you can't tell me that we are having water in our homes that we pay for ultimately, but it has a lot of heavy lead metal in it, traces of lead contamination in it. That statistic that I did share earlier, 32% in rural areas of water sources have lead, 22% in urban areas of water sources have lead, but that is what we consume. And ultimately, in the long run, these are the never-ending cancers.
It's very problematic. And the biggest challenge is, I repeat, we've become complacent. We've accepted this is a problem with us. We've accepted this is the way we want to do life. And even where we have implementation, I want to thank NEMA, that is the National Environment and Management Authority. It tries, but it's just a drop in the ocean. It tries. Water pollution, they try. But also, most of the times, they're able to come in and enforce when you people, you've made the alarm. Not as they have a monitoring and supervision team, but remember, people who are doing these pollutions, now I want to go to industries, for example. They are aware what they are doing is wrong. And by virtue of coming and look at an industry, you may not know that they have a tunnel somewhere underground that connects to the lake, because these chemicals, if they are to release them as recommended, it is an expensive venture. It requires investment. So unguided investment will find ways of getting this into our water bodies, you unknowingly. So it is usually a tip-off from either staff who has chased, who got another job, who alert NEMA that actually in that factory there is somewhere where this gets to the water bodies.
Right. Now let's look at, for every problem, one thing for sure is we must at least speak with a solution. So whilst the authorities like NEMA are trying to do the best they can, what are we as individuals supposed to do?
First, we must have serious sensitization. Let Ugandans know how big the problem is. This morning we are discussing this, but there's a Ugandan who is like, but are they lacking what to talk about? You know? There's an ignorant Ugandan there watching us this morning. And for you, this doesn't make sense. Remember, someone told me when we were young, we would even just be moving around and get, you know, these yam leaves.
Right.
And you go and get water, you're drinking, the cows are drinking, as long as it is clean. Now, we must understand that this is a problem. We must speak knowledge. We must deliver the right information to people so that they are concerned and they feel this is a threat This is a war that we must fight, or else we are going to reach a point where we can't use the water that we have in its natural form, and we have to put a lot of money that will make the water we are using today very expensive for us, already per crying of water bills, but very expensive. So one, we need to create awareness. We need to let people know that this is a problem. We must join hands. We must fight. If people don't have toilets, and these are people, the fishing community, it is directly clear that they are doing that in the water bodies. How do we enforce that? Should the UPDF Fisheries Unit also enforce that? We need to be realistic at this. Second, the law. The law is there against water pollution. But to what extent are we implementing it? Second, aren't we having selective justice? Because also that is another problem, Judy, that we have in our country. Sometimes we have what I call selective enforcement or selective justice. That as you're talking about this, someone is showing you somebody else who is doing the same thing and they are not being touched. So we must ensure that we enforce the law to the latter equally at all citizens. Right. Because this is what kills campaigns. I've been part of a number of campaigns. But as you're moving forward, you find that there is, in sensitization, in fighting some of these vices, we need to move together as one. But sometimes we are betrayed by those that are supposed to enforce when they begin bringing technical excuses. Right. You see now, that one we gave them a go-ahead long time ago. That one is an investor came. If we are saying let's protect our water bodies against pollution, against contamination, and these are the laws, let's enforce the laws to the latter. And right. Finally, let's empower bodies that are supposed, because sometimes we blame them, but realistically is they have a very thin budget. Right. They have very few staff, and they only rely on the public. Which public, remember, because not sensitized. We have come to believe that this is a normal thing. When it rains, you pass through a certain community and sewer is all over. Right. And someone just say, it has rained. Now they have, we need to move away from that notion. Surely, indeed. Thank you so much, Robert. And let's close with a comment from Atwine Timothy, who says, good morning, this is Atwine Timothy from Kaweweta. But are those chemicals like chlorine effective to our bodies? Well, experts in this would best answer that. Hopefully, we shall host them some time to elaborate widely on this particular subject. But thank you so much for being a part of the show. Good Morning Uganda does continue. It's 8 days to the Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo. And up next is GMU Tourism. I believe that will be shared more into that. But Good Morning Uganda does continue. Business is something that we have on the show. Sports is something that we have on the show. The agenda will be talking about food safety and nutrition. So stay tuned.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
The government's core mandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights, and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of a roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
It's going to be a tall project. That answers somebody's question.
For the past 20 weeks, the Front Bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice, and commerce.
When you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers, you bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge. These are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport.
If you have a Ugandan
who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more.
Now airing every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21 hash and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
The temperatures are really crazy. Like you can see, it's a hot morning and we are still at Namugongo Shrine. And behind us is just the lake. It's called Uganda Martyrs Lake. I didn't know there's one of a kind like that. But also an appreciation to the Catholics. I think they've taken part in planting as many trees as they can. And when you get to this area, there's at least much shade regarding climate change. Now, bringing you back to what we've been discussing. The other day, we were talking about what was inside the shrine. You got to see what was in there, you got to learn one or two things, and when we also got outside, you still got to see what was there. And we promised to bring you to the lake, which is where we are standing right now. We are yet to know why is this lake in Namugongo Shrine, how did it come to existence, is it a man-made lake or not? Let's hear that from Ben. We are with him again, and he's going to be introducing to us himself and tell us more about this place. We are happy to have you again, Mr. Ben.
Thank you so much. Once again, my name is Ben Tenywa. I'm in charge of visitors and pilgrims at the Uganda Martyrs Catholic Shrine in Namugongo. Now, where we are, this is a man-made lake. We call it the Uganda Martyrs Lake. Before, it was a swamp. The executioners, after executing people up there, they were sloping down here in the swamp to wash, to bathe, to cleanse themselves, refresh themselves. Tell the ghosts, not responsible for your death. It is the king who told us to kill you, don't haunt us. It is the goddess of Uganda you minimized and called them demons, responsible for your death, not us. So now, when they were designing the place, a priest was here in charge. The late Monsignor Lawrence Mbwega decided to dig the lake. This is a smaller lake which was dug basically for mass to be celebrated here whenever there is need for any open air mass, especially on Martyrs Day. Martyrs Day every year is a public holiday in Uganda. The bishops and the priests, they go in the basilica, in the shrine, they put on their vestments, they make a procession and go in the middle. In the middle of this lake, that pavilion is for bishops and a few priests. The excess of the priests, they sit behind, the pavilion behind. The pavilion on this side is for president and all of government officials, all of VIPs in that pavilion. The pavilion on that side is for the sisters, brothers and the sisters. Then the rest of the pilgrims all over. They put speakers on the trees so that people can hear them wherever they are. 3 popes have been here. The first pope to come in Africa celebrated the Mass here. Pope Paul VI was here on 2nd of August, 1969. John Paul II was here on 7th of Feb, 1993. And Pope Francis was here on 28th of November, 2015. Christians believe this is holy water. When they come here, some wash in their face, some touch, some carry at home. It depends on your faith. So here is a Pope Sacristy. Pope Francis, dressed from here, and he went for mass there.
Okay.
So, thank you so much.
Meaning
Thank
when
you.
he came, this was already put in place.
When Pope Francis was coming, they demolished whatever was here.
Okay.
There are some sheds which were here, but when Pope Francis was coming, they demolished all those sheds and they put up these new ones. Yeah, each pavilion has got toilets and rooms
Okay.
underneath. Yes.
And maybe to shed a light on Uganda matters, usually when it's happening, take us through what happens what happens in place.
Matters Day, 3rd of June, is a public holiday in Uganda. That's the day we remember the Uganda Matters. Every day they choose a diocese to lead us in the celebrations. Now this year, 2025, we have Lugazi diocese. On that, before that, we start with the prayers, a novena for 90 days. A novena is a prayer for 90 days with a particular intention. So we start with the prayers for 90 days. People walk on foot. People come walking from northern Uganda, western Uganda, eastern Uganda. People come walking from Nairobi on foot. Not because they don't have money, but to make a pilgrimage. So by 1st of June, the place is already full. Now on the very day, Mass, the procession starts from the basilica. The bishops and the priests, they go inside the basilica, they put on their vestments, they make a procession and they go in the middle there. So the Mass starts at 10 a.m. and it ends at midday. Then speeches by 2, everything is done. Yes.
And when it is done, everyone goes back.
Everyone goes back. Those who come walking, they use buses, they use their vehicles and they go back.
That's interesting. I didn't know that people are coming all the way even from Nairobi, walking.
Walking.
I thought it is Ugandans that are walking all the way, and probably the rest are catching flights and starting their walks from Entebbe. It's an interesting one for the faith. What are some of the things that these people be seeking for, especially to take that route of faith, to walk all the way? Now let's talk about people, for example, from Kisoro. From Kisoro, you walk probably the other corner in Karamoja till here. What is it that they are yearning for that will make them take that step to get to this place?
People who walk, for them they're strengthening their faith. They say if the Uganda Martyrs were burnt, if the Uganda Martyrs were killed, they were like us. They were black like us, they were men, they were young, they were old. So they say, since the Uganda Martyrs were burnt, and nobody is willing to burn us, nobody is going to burn us, let us go an extra mile of walking. So they make a pilgrimage, they make that holy journey. And in the process, they believe they are communicating with God, they are talking to God, they are coming nearer to God. And in the process of doing that, some are asking for forgiveness of their sins, some are asking for their particular intention is they intend to receive from God. So it is a holy journey, it's a prayerful journey. People come praying, people come telling God, seeking for forgiveness. People come, some come with particular intentions. This year in this pilgrimage, I'm asking for this. So doing that, let me walk. I'm asking for forgiveness of my sins. Doing that, let me walk. To achieve that, let me walk. So that's why you see people walking. Walking to be more nearer, to strengthen their faith, to be more nearer to God. Yeah, in this event, pilgrimage.
This is a place we've got to learn about for so many years. How have you been able to keep it this clean and intact in this area?
Yes. You see, this is a place of visitors. This is a place of pilgrims.
Yes.
So we have workers, workers who are always here to clean up this place. So on daily basis, visitors come. So for that matter, we have workers who clean the place. We have enough workers who clean this place to make it clean the way you have found it. Yes.
Okay, and when we look at the tourists that keep coming in, exception of the big day, the Uganda Matters Day, where the biggest numbers. I don't know, isn't it the day when the biggest numbers are? Yes, so let's look at now the other days. How often do you get in the visitors, and usually what are they looking for, the tourists?
Visitors come on a daily basis. Every day we get visitors, we get pilgrims, we get tourists. There are those who come to pray. There are those who come to tour. Those who come to tour, they have heard of this place. They want to know, is it true that people were burnt because of their faith? So that alone attracts tourists. That alone attracts pilgrims. So on daily basis, we get people who come to tour, people who come for pilgrimage. Because what happened here is not common, that people were burnt. In Uganda, it is only here. In Africa, it's only here. Maybe, I don't know, in the whole world. But what happened here is unique, that people were burnt. So people come to see this holy place. And so many people want to associate themselves with the holy place. And this year, I must visit the holy place. And one of the holy places in Uganda is Namugongo. Yes.
And maybe to give us your closing remarks or something that you would like us to know about the Namugongo Shrine.
Namugongo Shrine is a shrine dedicated to the saints, the Uganda Martyrs. Now I call upon you people of God to come and receive blessings, the Uganda Martyrs. If you have you need a miracle, you need something to strengthen your faith, this is the place. You emulate the Uganda Martyrs to attain sainthood, because the Uganda Martyrs are now saints. We also can become saints. The only way is to learn about the Uganda Martyrs, to meditate about the Uganda Martyrs, to think about the Uganda Martyrs, and visit the place like this one where the Uganda Martyrs were killed.
Thank you for sticking with us on the GMU Tourism Express. And this morning again, it's been the Religious Tourism Week dedicated to Catholics.
Good morning once again. Thank you so much for being on UBC TV. Good morning, Uganda. Welcome back from that GMU Tourism Express edition. As a reminder that 3rd June is almost here as we celebrate the Uganda Martyrs. But also allow me remind you again that the Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo is 8 days away, and it will be on the 21st of May to the 24th of May at the Speak Resort Convention Center in Munyonyo. If you have not yet registered, please register now at www.powate2025.com and be a part of this beautiful event as we exhibit everything about Uganda's beauty. Welcome to GMU Business, and we are starting off with drivers training in Kabale, and that is the tourist drivers in Chigezi sub-region that have been trained to enhance driving skills, roadcraft management, safe driving techniques, and pre-tour driving preparations. The training in Kabale was organized by Uganda Safaris Guides Association and the Ministry of Tourism, and the training for drivers covered various aspects critical to the tourism industry, including defense, driving, customer care, vehicle maintenance, and understanding tourists' needs. The chairman of the Uganda Safaris Guides Association emphasized skilled drivers in the tourism sector, and participants appreciated the training on safe driving practices and customer care as part of a broader strategy to enhance the quality of services offered to international and local tourists. Now, let's move on to matters US and China in regards to their trade war. U.S. says that a deal has been reached with China after trade talks. Both China and the United States have said that they've made progress at trade talks between the two countries in Switzerland. And the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent described the discussions as productive and constructive, while China's Vice Premier He Lifeng said that the talks were in-depth and candid. The White House called it a trade deal but gave no further details. A joint statement with full details is expected today. The pair were engaged in secretive closed-door discussions all weekend. In the first meeting, U.S. President Donald Trump levied steep tariffs against China in January. Now let's look at the forex rates as of 9th May 2025. The US dollar opened at 3,655.05 and was selling at 3,665.05. By midday, it had dropped a bit of value there, buying at 3,654.95 and selling at 3,664.95. And it closed in at a little bit of increased value at 3,654.77 and selling at 3,664.77. Now the British pound was buying at 4,834.52 and selling at 4,847.75. And the euro was buying at 4,101.38 and selling at 4,102.60. The Kenyan shilling was buying at 28.27 and selling at 28.35, and the Tanzanian shilling still maintaining the 1.35 buying and selling at 1.35 selling. And the South African rand was buying at 200.21 and selling at 200.76. Well, that's it from GMU Business. Up next is the agenda, and like I mentioned, we are talking matters food safety and nutrition, especially with the vantage of the law. So stay tuned.
The government is coming.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
The government's mandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights, and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of a roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
It's going to be a tall project that answers somebody's question.
For the past 20 weeks, the front bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice, and commerce.
When you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers, you bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport.
If you have a Ugandan who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more.
Now airing every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21 hash and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, every story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachiko. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda wange. Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala.
We have to change the political culture in this country, really. Who has bewitched Ugandans?
I want to assure you, as government, we shall do whatever it takes to ensure that Ugandans are safe.
We have conversations that have analysis, explanation.
This law society, this union of theirs, because they want a job everywhere, they want to be this, they want to be that, they want... No. We know it's a union.
You cannot be making a road, bitumen grade 1, in Congo for 5 billion.
But not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth.
The argument that the General Court Martial is responsible for peace and stability is without basis, either in law or in fact.
We have been told how Napoleon was a great orator. Now, Napoleon cannot help me get food. They told me combine harvest in Saskatchewan. I don't know where Saskatchewan is. This is a geography we're taught. Instead of teaching me how to preserve Mabera forest, they're teaching me about Rhineland. This is a problem we got. We cannot run away from it.
Right now, you hear very disgusting stories of members of parliament. Instead of discussing the details of loans, they ask for their cuts.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
Public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Buza Commissioner, enhancing tax education and bringing it closer to the taxpayers. Many Ugandans have questions about the taxes they pay to URA.
When we come at revenue, they tell us to clear Chitenge at 10,000. And when we are selling Chitenge, we sell it at 17. So we don't know whether we are working or not.
Understanding your tax obligations can help you grow your business and avoid unnecessary losses. Now, you can get direct answers. Send your tax-related questions via WhatsApp or SMS to 0790-141-887 and the Commissioner General of URA, John Musinguzi, will personally address them. Tune in to UBC News Tonight every Monday and Wednesday for expert insights and clear explanations. Buza Commissioner.
Across Uganda,
The parish development model is paving the way for prosperity, helping families transform their lives through strategic farming practices, like the 4-acre model.
In our Chivaro of 1996, we said first acre, put coffee. Second acre, fruits. The third acre, you put pasture for dairy cows. The fourth acre, for food, cassava. The good thing is that now cassava is also becoming a very good cash product, but at least for food. Then, mind you, the backyard. You put poultry for eggs, you put piggery.
I'm in a 1-acre plot of land. In this 1 acre, Your Excellency, I practice.
Good morning, Uganda. My name is Julie Nantabamusisi. Time for the agenda where we get to engage in a conversation, but one with an expert to speak into it for us to learn a lot and also unlearn a lot of non-facts that we could have collected from wherever. So this is a place to be for now. And if you want to be on the show, 0709-602-592. Now, like I mentioned earlier, that we would be talking about food safety and nutrition, and in particular, we shall be looking at enforcing consumer rights and protection. Now in studio with me is Martin Wambona. He is the program's associate of Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights in Uganda, and he is here to talk about that in depth and in full. Good morning, Martin.
Good morning, Julie, and good morning to the people watching us all over Uganda. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Right. How is Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights?
We are the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights.
Right.
We promote the right to adequate food. We do a lot of policy advocacy. We do a lot of human rights in relation to food, but then also do a lot of pro bono cases for the women outside there in the local communities whose land rights have been violated, because we know that land is a factor of production for food. So unless someone has access to land tenure, they have ability to use the land, utilize the land. So we do all that in the courts in Uganda. But then also we promote adequate nutrition for the people through policy advocacy, through law, but then also consumer awareness.
All right. And let's start from there. You've talked about protecting women's rights. You've talked about protecting rights altogether in regards to food and health. And under normal circumstances, one would only think about food and health to be matters engaged by those in the field of science. But what role are lawyers, or what role is the law playing based on your expertise and what you do?
Yes, thank you so much. I think why we bring in the aspect of law is to promote governance and accountability. Unless the population in Uganda is protected against the third party, then the right to adequate food will not be realized. We may go and educate the people about the right to food, the right to adequate food, nutrition and health, but unless there is a law or there is a policy that encompasses these, unless there's a law that encompasses the right to adequate food and adequate nutrition, then we'll not have nutrition aspects realized in Uganda. We'll continue having poor dying of food unless there is governance and accountability. So we encompass this aspect to see that there is the duty bearer, government, then there is the rights holder, me, the person who's consuming the food. We bring them together and they are upheld into a law to force issues of accountability between the rights holders and the duty bearers. That is the biggest aspect with law and policy for food and nutrition.
Right. Is there a time where the the coin is flipped, where the rights holder is the government and the consumer is the duty holder?
It isn't there.
Right.
Because for me, if I pay tax, I must be protected through laws, through policies, through regulations. And the duty to protect the citizens is enshrined in the constitution of the country. And it falls on the side of the government. So there's no part or there's no scenario where it crisscrosses.
All right. So now do share some of the campaigns, achievements, and campaigns in particular that your organization has been a part of and you've seen them successful.
Yeah, we have held a lot of campaigns. We are members of the International Developmental Organization, Global Cup Program, that is supported by the WHO. We have worked on several guidelines, for example, the National Physical Activity Guidelines with the Ministry of Health. So we envision that these ones will be launched. We know there is a lot of physical inactivity in this country, which has contributed to the growing burden of NCDs. People sit in offices, even those ones in the villages do not want to do exercise. So we thought there would be regulation on physical activity to see that we guide people on which physical activity to do so that they can remain healthy and in shape. But we're also running various campaigns in this country. I'll be discussing later the nutrient profiling model in front of the park warning labeling campaign, a campaign that we started last year to ensure that government comes up with policies, regulations, to regulate the food environment, most especially the processed and ultra-processed food products on the market, to see that there's a policy tool that curbs the rising burden of NCDs in this country. I'll be discussing that in detail as we go on.
All right. If you want to be on the show, 0709-602-592. That is the WhatsApp number to which you can send your opinion or your question to ask Martin Wambona. Martin is the program's associate at the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights. Now, Martin, what are some of the challenges you have so far faced as an organization in enforcing food safety regulations?
The biggest challenge is we find food safety and nutrition somehow technical for the population, but then also for the duty bearers, that is government. But I also find one of the biggest challenges the lack of policy and regulation, lack of law. We do not have a food law in Uganda, if you didn't know. What we have is we have a 1954, before even we knew, a 1954 law, before even we knew that there will be, 1959, before even we knew that there will be a transition to consumption of foods that are ultra-processed. Because in 1959, when the food law was made for consumed food from their gardens,
right,
there was minimal processing.
It was even before independence.
Before even independence. So no one knew that in the 21st century, a person could sit and food is delivered at their desk.
Right.
So that lack of law, that lack of regulation has put us into a difficult state as advocates for food and nutrition. Because we can't hold anyone accountable if we don't have a law. We can't hold anyone accountable if there are no regulations that are actually binding. So whenever we talk, we speak to the people, we speak to the policy makers, we find it extremely difficult to hold the people who are manipulating our food accountable, because there's no law in which food and nutrition is anchored. Currently, there are very many processes that are going around on food. Reason being is a lot of transition has happened in terms of consumption of food. Right. So we have the food and nutrition policy. We hope by after its enaction and passing by the government, it will address some of the issues we shall be talking about. The food and nutrition bill, although the food and nutrition bill is not yet in tandem with aspects of the food systems framework and also following the guidance from the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture, and also the food and nutrition policy, we hope that the team that is tasked with developing the bill to come up with a law later on for this country should look at aspects, the nutrition transition in the country, the food consumption patterns in this country, but also align the bill in line with the food and nutrition policy developed by MAIF, but also the food systems framework. That way we shall be able to address issues of food and nutrition in this country.
What are your thoughts on genetically modified foods?
Genetically modified foods, that is a topic that is very broad, I'll say. But when someone goes into aspects of genetic modification and play around with the genetic makeup of particular plants, you have, first of all, health aspects. Most of the GMOs are novel pesticides. When I talk about novel pesticides, I mean there are pesticides incorporated within them to fight against pests, to fight against weeds, to kill them off.
So they are chemicals?
Literally chemicals.
Right.
So we literally consume those chemicals. Then, if you go back to the aspects of seed, over time our parents and grandparents have lived with seed. They have shared seed amongst themselves. They have reproduced seed, kept and reproduced over time. But now, we become slaves to the seed industry, whereby every season I have to go back and buy, because the GMOs and hybrid seeds are only for one season. That means I have to go back. So the person who controls my food now is someone who's in America, who's in Germany, Bayer or Monsanto, because they make the seed. They have purposes of hoarding the seed. It has happened when they hoard maize seed, so that they cause demand among people and raise the prices. So if a local woman in the village there cannot afford seed, maize seed, year in, year out, they are bound to die. They will not farm. You get? They will not farm. They will not feed their families because they do not have the income to go every season to the seed company to buy the seed. So genetically modified organisms literally affect seed fairness, seed equity, and seed equality. So it means that me, if I grow my seed and let's say I have cross-pollination from a genetically modified seed, the seed company has a right to charge me or take me to the courts of law because they have patented that seed. If I grew maize and there's cross-pollination from your garden to my garden, and there's seed that comes out that has the characteristics or qualities of the seed from DK 19, I'll say 18, or longer, the seed company has all the rights to take me to court. Because there was a natural process of pollination that I have no control over, they have all the rights, because they have patented that seed, to take me to court or pay rights to them. How many farmers in this country, 70% are smallholder farmers, are able to pay patent rights or costs to the seed industry? So when we talk about GMOs, we try to bring in the aspects of fairness, aspects of equity, because they like I've explained, they affect the seed equity of the people. They put people into poverty, they put people into dependence, they put people as slaves to a particular person, which couldn't be the case like it was before. So even the laws that are being formulated now should be able to address issues of seed equity, seed multiplication. We're supposed to have seed banks, but because GMOs have grown over and over and over again, the seed banks have died off because there are people who want to live off the smallholder farmers, the people who want to live off the population of this country, because for them they're interested in profit and not issues of fairness, issues of equity, but also they're not interested in issues of health. When we look even at GMOs, we look at biodiversity loss. Formerly, there are seeds that you'll never see again in this country. There are certain indigenous breeds that you'll never see. If my grandmother was growing Kanyegwa, she cannot grow kanyewa anymore.
Yes.
Because they will tell her, you see, your kanyewa will not produce. We are looking at productivity. But there must be an issue of self-sustenance. There must be an issue of self-reliance. There must be an issue of actual economic inequality, because we are talking about seed companies that have budgets greater than this country. How do we position ourselves as a country to fight off such people? I'm just happy that we do not have yet the GMO bill in this country. And I pray that it never passes, because the moment it passes, we shall have put ourselves as a country to death. And the food insecurity crisis now will just worsen. Yes.
Right. Innocent from Masindi, you come through and says, good morning, Uganda. How can we farmers and Ugandans be protected from the negative impacts of GMO? I wonder how you can answer that, but please.
Yeah, first and foremost, we need to go back to our roots as a country. If you are in a community, Innocent, in Masindi, can you mobilize women in that community to collect seed, or the youth or the farmers in that community to collect seed, indigenous seed, from all the people who have gone the seed over time, our grandparents, our mothers, our fathers? Come together as a community and create yourselves a seed bank, a community where you can share seed, reproduce seed, but then also protect yourselves against, because now the seed companies have reached as close as to my village in Budaka. There's a seed shop, there's an agro-dealer's shop. So to protect yourselves, you must mobilize yourselves, collect the indigenous seed, and reproduce it yourselves. Create a community seed bank where you can easily go, pick seed, distribute seed, and share seed, because that is what this country was built on. Seed sharing, seed multiplication, and reproducing. Yeah. But then also join the global and national movement to advocate for a seed bill that protects the rights of the farmers, that protects the seed rights of the farmers, and also the rights of the peasants in this country. Otherwise, because now Kenya has allowed GMOs into their country.
That's true.
Before then, we shall know that because we have cross-border trade, we have even open borders, sooner or later we shall see those into our country. So we must fight, this is a fight, we must fight, we must protect our indigenous seed, we must protect our biodiversity, but we must start with us, within the communities, to see that we uphold our rights to seed.
Very, very profound indeed. And Uganda is a blessed nation. It's a blessed nation with nature, blessed by nature and blessed with nature. How I pray that we preserve that, as Martin has expressed profoundly. 0709602592. That is the number to which you can share your opinion and ask your question. Now, Martin, how do you ensure that consumers are protected from unsafe or mislabeled foods?
Yeah, thank you so much. You see, we have a problem in this country.
Right.
And I don't know where it started from, but the Ministry of Health just made a survey of processed and ultra-processed foods. And surprisingly, 37% of the foods in the market in Uganda do not have nutrition information.
37%?
37%.
That's high.
That's very high.
That's high.
That's very high.
Yeah.
37% of products in this country do not have nutrition information. So we are consuming products and don't know what is in them. They do not even meet the bare minimum labeling standards in this country. Now, the problem also comes that people no longer consume matoke and whole grain food, because I want to consume food that is easy to cook, that I can easily eat, that is cheap. I didn't know that having a full meal of matoke is more expensive than than buying junk.
You know, when you say that, I'm reminded of things like I hear on the market now we have artificial eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how we consume artificial eggs, because
Yeah.
you'd imagine that an egg is, I mean, as simple as it comes from a chicken, and then on the market, and then on your plate when you fry it. But please, yes.
So that nutrition transition has led to the increasing number of non-communicable diseases in this country. 33% of the deaths, annual deaths in this country are caused by non-communicable diseases. Non-communicable diseases, these are diseases that cannot easily be spread from one person to the other. This is like obesity, overweight, hypertension, stroke, cancers. No wonder the country wants to expand the Uganda Cancer Institute, because people are now consuming these foods. Now, these products that we are consuming now have excess of nutrients of critical concern. Nutrients of critical concern mean sugar, fat, and salt, what they call sodium. So people are consuming these products without guidance on which amount they should take, without guidance through labeling that this product is excess in this, which should be the case. So from that survey, these processed products we take, with this junk we find on we order and they bring this junk, we just go there and eat. So I said 37% don't have nutrition information. Now there's 63 that have nutrition information. 72.1% of that are ultra-processed. They are overly processed that even the nutrition content of that product is lost.
In what sense? Paint a picture of being overly processed.
Overly processed. That means they have added things that are not in their natural state to make it tasty, to make it attractive to the people and the population. So 72.1% are ultra-processed. So you're eating a product that has excess of sugar, excess of salt, excess of fat. That's what we call ultra-processed product. So they have changed the form of the product to attract, to be sweet enough for you to consume. Now, over 58% of the products on the market in general have a lot of free sugar, excess in free sugar. Because we have what we call the WHO population nutrient intake goals that set thresholds for particular nutrients of critical concern. So we have over 58% of the two products in this country having excess of free sugar. So that means more than 50%, every time you consume a product, you know you're taking an ultra-processed product, there's high chance that you're taking a product that is high in free sugar. Now, if you look at the sugar-sweetened beverages, the sodas, those other products, those beverages we take that are sweet enough.
The ones that are called juice.
Juice.
That it's processed.
They're not even juice. There's a difference between juice and juices.
What's the difference? Take us to school.
Juice is something you can easily make at home.
All right.
Juices or juices. Something say juicy. Or fruity. And fruits. Those are different things. Juices are things that are artificially made through the synthetics, through the chemicals, through the powder, through the sweeteners, through all those ones. So you have juices.
So essentially, when someone, you meet people who say that I'm staying away from soda, they'll take the different juices from the shelf.
Those are the biggest problems we have in this country.
Is it equal to doing nothing, staying away from soda and taking the juices?
You have run out. We have run away from the frying pan to fire.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So.
Right.
So the sugar-sweetened beverages, the juices, the fruities, the sodas, and all those others, 84% of them have excess of free sugar. 84%. That means every time you take a sugar-sweetened beverage, dear people and the viewers there, you are taking a product that is overly excess in free sugars. You know what sugar does? Diabetes, overweight, hypertension, stroke, sukari, the one we call sukari, yarode sukari, and you know these people and how they suffer throughout the treatment and the nature of the treatment, the costs that they go through. But for other nutrients, total fat, 50% of the products, excess in total fat. Sodium, 50%. That means there's likelihood that 50% of Ugandans in this country are consuming products that are excess in nutrients of concern, and 50% of the Ugandans are likely to have or get the NCDs.
Now, staying there, many of the things we buy from supermarkets indeed are packaged first and foremost, and they have labels at their back. You can, they say maybe like fat, 1%, calcium, maybe 2%, maybe sugar, maybe 10% or whatever. How are those labels important?
Okay, first I said only 63% have that.
Yeah.
Now, do you ever get time to read those labels?
I do take that time to read them. I just don't understand them. Yes.
Now, it's like you didn't read them.
Yes.
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense to me as a person to go and read fat 1%, sugar 10%, salt, sodium, energy, this, because I will not understand it. Actually, it's not even my role to understand it. You have done the bare minimum to label and put the nutrition information. Whether it is right or wrong, that is me and you. Whether, because someone was telling me that people, the nutrition information for particular products is the same all over all products. So you have your product, because there's no law, there's no regulation. You have your product there labeled. Because I'm also making somehow a similar product, I'll just get your nutrition information and put on mine. So those cases are also there. But how does government, does Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture come and help us consumers to understand these labels? Because we will never, if I'm a lawyer, if I'm an agriculturalist, I'm not a nutritionist to understand. Even the nutritionists find it hard and time to calculate those nutrition facts that are on the product. But world over, there are policy tools that have been developed to help people understand the nutrition facts in particular products. They may not understand that 10% means this energy content means this, but to easily understand and know that this product is not good for my health, this product is in excess of particular nutrients of critical concern, there's what we call the nutrient profiling model. Now, it gives thresholds that for a particular product per 100 mils or per 100 grams, there is a threshold which should not exceed within that product. Now, after understanding the nutrient profiling and the profile of these products, these ones are in excess of nutrients of critical concern, these ones have high sugar, the policy should be able, the Ministry of Health should be able to come up with guidelines and also regulations on what we call the front of the pack warning labeling. That for me, if I'm in my village in Masaka, if I'm deep down in Maokota, and you give me a product that is excess in fat, it should be labeled on the front of the pack and tell me, you see this product has excess in free sugar. This product has excess of fat.
So in other words, the labeling should actually be as simple as
that.
Interpreted by a layman.
Even in local language.
Even in local language.
That even my grandmother can see ntono sukali mungi and will not consume that product.
Or will choose. Ultimately, the choice is yours.
The choice will become to me as the consumer.
Yes.
Whether to choose, because even if I know that I can consume sparingly, or not to consume at all, because there are certain products that even if you say you're going to consume sparingly, it will still affect your health. And one thing that I've made within the products, there is an addiction built around. Someone was telling me the addiction is because most of these products there's a particular reason why you want a particular soda.
So, okay, now that you talk about addiction, there are sodas that have caffeine.
Sure. So you are addicted
to the caffeine.
To the caffeine.
Not the soda
Not
itself.
the soda. And you want that particular one because it has a particular quantity that reaches you're thinking that, okay, this is the best for me.
Interesting. Shots fired for the callers.
And on caffeine,
yeah,
the World Health Organization has come up clearly that any product, any ultra-processed product that has caffeine should be labeled. There's no threshold, even if it is 0.1%, that product should be labeled. But we still have them here on the market. We just take. We
enjoy a lot of cola brands,
and
yes.
No one has come up, not even the government, has come up to say, no, let us put an end to this.
Now, let me engage some of the commentary coming in from you. Thank you so much for watching the show and following the conversation. 0709-602-592. Good morning. Which plans do you have for UPE schools to ensure that pupils have enough food in order to learn accordingly? This is Adinaitwe.
Yes, thank you so much, Alinaite, for tuning in and also the comment. The government is coming up with a school feeding policy that we know should ensure that there is food in schools, but then also the school feeding policy should not only ensure that the food is in the schools, but also that is the food safe? What about the canteens in the schools? Do you know that children in these days are becoming overly obese?
That's true.
And heavy because of the canteens. So the school food environments should also be regulated. But to put food in the schools, in the AP schools, the government has dropped, I think, 2 models. There's what we call homegrown school feeding program. It's a model that other countries have done that the government also thinks we shall adopt. So in this homegrown school feeding, we have schools. Schools have land that is redundant. Most of the UP schools, a person gave them land, the school was built, and then maybe left there some piece of land for them to cultivate. So the schools will be, there's homegrown, where the parents within the community that take particular students to that particular school. Because now government has come and said, okay, every parish should have a primary school. Every village should have a primary school. So there's a community for the school. So these people can grow food to supply to the school. The school can purchase that food through the capitation grants. But also, the community can bulk the food, and their contribution to the school, because they don't pay school fees, their contribution to the school should be the food for the children to consume. So we also have the parent-led, where the parents are tasked with providing food for their children.
Right.
So that they can have better output at the end of the day in results, but also have a healthy population. But for me, I feel there's a group of people the group of schools that are left out. You know, they are mission schools. They are not, government hasn't taken ownership of them yet. I started my school because they are vulnerable people. Now the schools are there, the children do not have parents. Even majority of the people, there are statistics on children-led homes. So if I'm the father of my other siblings and I'm in P7, at what time will I get to go and dig and provide the food if you're saying it's homegrown or it's parent-led? I don't even have a parent. So there are those mission schools of orphans, of the underprivileged, where government hasn't taken ownership of them. So we believe that government should come with interventions, specific interventions for those mission schools, that if I have a family that I am leading and I'm in P7, I am the father, I am the mother, and the mama and the tata, how am I helped with my other siblings to be able to attain food and go to school? There are schools that when you join in P1, you don't go back home until you finish P7. Because it is mission-based, you are there as an orphan where will I get my parent to provide food for me? But then they have also tried to bring in the blended, where there is homegrown, there's parent-led, but then there's also some bit of government to see that the children in schools get the food for them to be able to study.